During the June 2025 Widening the Pipeline virtual training, we'll focus on leveraging FOIAs, data, and communication tools for better reporting. That's because in this age of artificial intelligence, data journalism, and advanced communication tools, you don't have to be part of an elite investigative reporting team to produce stories that have big impact. Journalists across a range of beats can dig deeper and employ creative strategies to find sources and communicate in ways that resonate. During this first session, we'll hear from a veteran investigative journalist who'll share tips on using FOIAs to illuminate issues of injustice and inequity. Topher Sanders reports on racial injustice and inequality in the legal system for ProPublica. Among his many career highlights, in 2016, Topher co-founded the Ida B. Wells Society for Investigative Reporting, a nonprofit that works to increase the number of investigative reporters and editors of color. Topher, thank you so much for joining the Widening the Pipeline family today.
Thank you for having me.
So I know you've prepared a presentation for us, so I will just turn things over to you.
Awesome. And I can share my screen and all that. I have
Yeah,
that ability. Okay, great. All right, so I'm gonna do that. How many do we have on?
we have 15 so far. One person had a reporting assignment and we may get a few others.
And so staffing and me, so it's more like 12, right?
At the moment, yeah, maybe.
Okay,
Well, another one
perfect.
just joined, so 12 or 13.
All right, beautiful,
We'll
beautiful.
see.
Great. We'll get going. So listen, the way I like to do this, and even in a virtual space, I think it's the best way to do it, is that this is a conversation. These slides that are going to be up are just kind of prompts for us to have this conversation. If throughout I'm droning on for 10 minutes at a time, then both of us are doing it wrong. You guys got to stop, ask questions. If you have insights or curiosities about anything, please stop. That's really what will make this the most productive hour possible for everybody. Let me share my screen and let's get going. So public records, and so this is going to be us talking about strategies, insights, and some tools to think about how to pursue records and things that I found have been helpful and successful for me. So, and this is not a trick question, but it's to kind of start the way we want to finish, right? So I need someone in the group to just talk through what a public record is, not a trick question. So whoever is had their coffee already and ready to chap in. So who wants to do that? And is there someone here that can pay attention to the hand raising and get those things identified?
Yes, Topher, this is Sydney Clark, and I can do that.
Thank you. All right. All right. Someone raise their hand before I call on somebody. All right, we got one. Let's go.
Hi, Topher. I'm Monique Welch,
Hey,
formerly with the
Monique.
Houston Landing.
Yeah.
I would define a public record as just a document or database that is accessible to the public, essentially. The public can mean anyone who, is seeking those records, doesn't always have to mean a family member or a friend or a journalist. It can be anyone who desires it for any reason that, that agency doesn't is not required to solicit.
Absolutely. That's a dope definition. That's it. A public record is, again, no trick there. It's a record that belongs to the public. Now, every state and our federal government, they try to define and put some guardrails around what is and what isn't a public record. And that's where the journalists and the skill sets that we all, learn over our careers help us kind of know those carve outs, know those boundaries, can either flex against them, push against them, expand them sometimes, and then the legislators, the state houses will get together and try to restrict, and then we have to get smarter on how to do this. So, but that's it. It's a document information, not confidential, generally pertain to conduct of the government, blah, 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 right? What's some examples of a public record? And let's see if we can, think a little bit outside the box here. So this is where, since everyone's so eager this morning, well, I'm gonna put everybody's name on my screen somewhere so I can just start calling cats I love this. So who's gonna help me out here?
Alicia Brown, States Newsroom. Emails. Emails are a good example of a
I
public
love it.
record.
I love it. It's a great one. Who else? What else? Who else? Somebody got something?
I can say something. Leah Kincaid, WJXA News. How much the mayor makes in a year? That's a public record.
Yeah, salary records, all public record. I love that. I love that. And we'll do one more.
Hi, Kirti Gopal. I'm with Inside Climate News. Like city inventories or state inventories, kind of like data spreadsheets, things like that.
Love it. All correct. All right answer. There's a public record, so man, there's so many dope public records. Yeah, birth records, death records, marriages, divorces, real estate, police records, of course, text messages, right? We forget that those text messages, particularly on devices that are owned, controlled by the government, it's a public record. Now, will you have to fight mightily to get them? You might, but those are public records, particularly when they're talking about the public's business. Now, just a point of clarification, if someone's on their government issue phone and they're trying to organize a dental visit for their kid, is that a public record? Anybody? I am waiting for a response if no one is clear on that.
I'd say yes.
The answer is no.
No.
So you can be on your government issued device, even this applies to emails as well. And if you are handling what is clearly personal business outside the realm of your job or what you're there and paid by state or local dollars to do, there are carve outs for those type of records, and I think justifiably so. I don't know that it's on us to know exactly that your kid needs a filling done on Tuesday. That's your business. You happen to get the email into your work email, or you're texting with the dentist office. Bet. Not public record. Now, arguments can be made that if someone's doing that 100% of their government issued time, taking care of this personal business and then not doing the public's business, you might get walk into court and try to make an argument to obtain those documents, or at least some kind of summary of those records to show that, hey, this person's not doing their job. That's why we want these records. So there are situational kind of arguments that can be made about some records, but generally speaking, those personal things, not public record, even when done on a public device. All right. So what they look like, I'm gonna skip this part. I'm assuming this crew here, everybody submitted a public record at least once. Is that right? I'm not looking at everybody. I can't see everybody. Let me see if there's a way for me to see people.
It's because you're spotlighted. So 1 second.
Okay, all right. I like to look at all the beautiful faces and then call out on some names. That's my vibe. So has everybody submitted a public record? Is that I guess like
I
a
have
thumbs
not
up or something?
actually.
Who hasn't?
Mark Edwards for Washington Examiner.
All
I
right. Well,
also haven't either.
oh man, well we're gonna get y'all going. We're gonna get y'all going. So this is if you want to take this link down, this is just a sample of a FOIA out of Jersey, so you can kind of see what one looks like. And I can provide this link if you for some reason aren't able to get this. You want to snapshot it, whatever, but this link will be provided somewhere else. But this is just a quick example of what they look like. And if you go to this org and a few others that I'll highlight, they provide you the basic kind of beta text that you need, that beta text that allows you just to kind of fill in the substantive nature of the record you're looking for in every state in the union. So if you need to request something out of Virginia or Hawaii or Massachusetts, you go to outfits like the Reporters Committee, and they have sample letters on how to make requests in those states. Really great resource. All right. So one of the things that I think gets people in trouble a lot when they do records requests is not spending enough time up front just thinking about the records you're pursuing, and are you asking the right question to yield the records you want? And this is an example where I failed to do this. I was given a tip that some corrections officers were getting sweetheart deals from the local DA, and I kind of rushed in there and fired off a request. I didn't chew on, hey, do I need to think a little bit longer about the nature of the records I'm requesting? Do I need to carve out a little bit more about the time frame I want this? I just kind of charged in, fired off a request, and naturally, I didn't get the records that I want. And this is just an email that I received from the sheriff's office kind of telling me to kick rocks, like, yo, yeah, sure, we can look and see about, corrections officers and internal affairs. But to do that, we'll have to do a 10-year review for you. Do you want that? It's going to cost $1 million. So this is kind of what can come to you if you don't take the time up front to think about the records you want. Okay, now this is where I am gonna. Is there a way for me to see people's faces? Is there a way for me to change this?
I'm seeing people on my end.
Yeah,
Are you seeing people on the side?
I don't. That's what I want to see. And so this.
You can go up to the top right corner and where it goes view, you can change
Yeah,
it
you
to
have to
gallery.
change the view on your end. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
you click on gallery, it should work.
Okay, gallery, videos, participants. Okay. See, it took me out again. That's my bad, guys. Um. And I need to get back. And where is? All right. Okay, well, I'm going to trust that someone's going to jump in here and help me out here. So you've been told that an elected official has been not going to work for weeks or months. How can we prove that? And I am looking for responses.
You could request their emails for the time, like last 2 or 3 months, just to see if they've had any correspondence with employees within their department.
I like that. That's great. I like the emails. Um, I think that what you'll get, and you probably will see a lot of email activity, but you could track to see what they're sending out. Like, are they responding to emails? That is good. It's going to be pretty labor intensive. And someone could do I've been working from home. And they still could do that with where I'm going to land on this. But this is where you're really trying to see if someone's been showing up at work. Who else?
If they sit on any councils or commissions, that'll require a little bit of research, but you can ask for attendance records too, or voting records.
I like the voting records. That's dope. Absolutely, you could ask for that. That is a way to see if they've been going to those committees, showing up at their meetings. Love that. One more thought on how we could do this.
I mean, I would start with their schedules. Can you hear me okay? I would start with their schedules for the next 3 months out, if that's how long they say they're not going to work, and find out who's going to be there in their stead.
Or if they have been going to work. Like, this is like the tip to you is that this cat's been away from the gig.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Then what their schedules were, and then we can get more specific there with those committee meetings and stuff like that as we kind of find out where they were and where they weren't with that schedule, ideally.
I like that. And I'm going to tell you, I had to do this once, and I'm going to tell you what I did. And this is something to kind of broaden the way you think about what a public records is I requested the access badge information. How often was this individual swiping their badge to get in and out of the building that is their work office? And what I've been told, it'll come up again a little later, is that this elected official, his wife, in the state of Florida, public defenders are elected officials. There's 20 of them in the state of Florida. And because they are constitutional officers, which in a state, when you're a constitutional officer, it means that all your rights and the power bestowed to you is not local, but it's built into the constitution of that state. So you're a state officer. So there's 20. Those are pretty important positions. This gentleman's wife had learned that he may not have been altogether faithful. So the wife showed up at work and proceeded to try to fire people at the job. And yeah, she doesn't work at the office. She's not the elected official. She's a spouse. So she doesn't have the power to fire or hire anyone. So she showed up, created a fuss. She threw some things, tried to fire some people. And so to repair his marriage, he wasn't coming to work. He was staying at the crib trying to figure his life out. And I was able to nail this, got a few people to talk to me about this. But where it really started to hit the fan was where I've been told the wife had an access badge and that, hey, she's been coming into the office all the time she wants to. And then this turned into a really big thing where I found them deleting the access badge information and it turned into a grand jury and the whole thing. And this is me using the access badge data to show that my man had only swiped it 3 days and a month period and another day and another month. And so clearly he wasn't going to work. He was trying to fix his life. And that's the way you can do that. And that's kind of thinking outside the box on how to go at records. Okay, next one, again, looking for responses. You've been told that, or you've observed with your own eyes, you're walking around your community and you're looking at your police force, and man, they looking kind of unhealthy. They looking like they couldn't run down a suspect to save their life, right? Is there a way to prove that you have a completely out of shape and overweight police force? And I have this AJC story up because this is a story that I'm stealing from the AJC. Love this story. And so that's why I have this up here. How would one go about trying to prove that?
I guess you could request access to the records. They do fitness tests. You can request access to those records.
Man, that is straight down the middle. Love that. And yes, you'll request that and it will be denied. Anyone know why it will be denied?
HIPAA?
Correct. It will be denied via HIPAA. It will be a HIPAA violation for them to provide that fitness test result. Anybody else?
So agency is actually my market, but one way we also got around this was asking how many, because we have post officer proceedings and like their criteria. So we asked how many officers within an agency have completed a fitness test or have at least been certified in that arena. So it wasn't specific to individuals, but the agency as a whole, we were able to get those records.
That is a really smart way to do that. And it's because you're getting in bulk data, largely that shouldn't be something that should be denied. I think that they may try to come up with creative reasons to try to deny it, but I believe that they should all fail. Problem is there that if they do try to deny it and then you try to push back and you could find yourself in court or something like that because they're going to stick to their guns, maybe. But I love that. That's a great way to do it. That is not how the AJC did it. They had another kind of outside the box approach. Anybody gotta give someone else another stab at a way this particular agency, this particular newspaper was able to do this?
I don't know if there'd be records of like foot chases that the police may experience in their day to day.
Love that. Love that. There actually are records of that. Kind of labor intensive to get them because in each agency they'll have a signal designation for like someone on foot fleeing. And whatever that signal code is in your agency, if you go into their CAD system, their kind of computerized dispatch, you should be able to request that. It just means they'll have to do a filter on it and search for it. But I like that because I think that is a smart way to try to get at like mainly large, like how often are they even running after suspects in general, right? That could be an interesting and good story to do in a local market. But that is not what the AJC did. I'll tell you what they did. And this is just, again, thinking and trying to be creative about how to pursue their records. They went and got all of the uniform dimension purchase orders made by the Atlanta, or was it Atlanta PD? I think it was the Atlanta PD or Decatur Police Department. And they were able to use those dimensions, those uniform order purchases and the dimensions to approximate height and size of all these individuals. And it was a really fantastic story. Well done and went across to the department that they were able to show that, this police department needs a membership at Gold's Gym, right? And so it was a good story, but that's the way they did it, thinking outside of the box. Be creative. This is just another way of thinking about creativity. One thing that I find a lot of journalists, when they hit walls around records, is believing that they can get the record only from one place, right? They're like, oh, I'm interested in some FBI records, so only the FBI has them. No, I'm interested in these school records, so only my local school district has them. Nah. So you have to think about where else do these records, what other agencies and offices touch these records? They too are custodians of the record. And often the benefit of going to someone that is not the target of your investigation, and that's how I think about everything in the kind of scheme and scope of an investigation, is because they don't give a flying, flea about giving you the records. Right? So here's a quick example of that. Anybody know who this pleasant looking woman is? Nope. This is a little before your time. This is Angela Corey. She is a former DA in the state of Florida. The reason if her name like tickles something in the back of your memory is because she was the prosecutor who screwed up the Trayvon Martin case. She had the Trayvon Martin case, fumbled it completely, didn't get any justice. At the same time that she was supposed to be prosecuting George Zimmerman and allowed him to utilize stand your ground in our own community in Jacksonville. She was from Jacksonville. She was prosecuting a woman named Marissa Alexander and was going to put her in jail for 60 years for firing a warning shot at her husband who was beating her routinely. And so she's a pleasant lady. And when the state and the governor of Florida was trying to figure out who's going to take the Trayvon Martin case, because it was the international clusterfuck, who's going to take this case, he selected this woman. And in the city of Jacksonville, where black folks knew who she was and what she was about, they were aghast that she had been selected to take this case. So I've been told that this woman tried to skirt state rules to give her office bonuses. And I knew that if I went to the front door of her office and said, yo, give me these records, she was going to stonewall, outright deny, or come up with ways that we wouldn't get records. We once asked her for minutes to a meeting, which there's completely no justification for withholding minutes to a meeting. And she kept those away from our newspaper for 3 months just because she hated the newspaper and hated its reporting. So to get this bonus thing, I knew I wasn't going to get it from her. So I went to this outfit. It's called the Justice Administrative Commission. It's a weird little office in the state of Florida, but their whole job is to be the HR agency for state's attorneys, district attorneys, and public defenders, so that they don't have to staff those people up in their own offices. There's a state office that does all that work. So instead of going to Angela Corey's office and saying, hey, yo, I need to get that bonus information that I heard you illegally did. Of course, she's not going to give that to me. So I went here and I said, hey, I need to get the salary information for every employee in the Fourth Circuit. Can you do that for me? And they're like, you're creating a headache for us. We know why you're doing this. And of course, Angela Corey is going to call us our office, but no dog in the fight for us. Here you go. Gave it to me in like 3 days. And the way she had done this, and she kind of hid it this way, where she gave everyone a salary bump 1 month and then reduced the salary back to their original salary the next month. So if you said, hey, give me the bonuses, they could in a legal but not honest way say, no, we didn't give no bonuses, bro. But they did. They changed everybody's salary for a month and then reduced it the very next month. I was able to prove that. I got all the records from them, and I was able to write the story that they had given out $425,000 in bonuses. And then, because this is my beef with this whole headline, I was incredibly confident. Like, though we had this, we went to experts, da da da. We had her solid that she had broken the law, but my paper didn't have the balls, the cojones to go hard with the headline and just say what it was. So that's why you have this mealy mouth headline here. And just to show you how they're not your friend, I asked her, hey, yo, are you going to do this again? And this is her response. So I don't know, but I don't know if that would be something I would end up discussing with you, Topher. I just love that. Love that energy. Walking While Black, big story I did for ProPublica. In this story, we were targeting a particular police agency, but again, knowing that they may play games with us on the records, We went to the state and got 7 million records from the state in a week. It was done. And we had the data that we needed to nail this story that went kind of, crazy on the web and change some laws and all that stuff. So think about where else the records sit and where you can get them. At this point, I want to stop and kind of ask, are there any questions? I hope there are some questions. And I can't see anybody, so if you're raising your hand, I don't know. And I hope that someone else is looking to see if you are.
I don't know if you can see my hand raised, but I had a question.
Yeah, please. And Sydney, are you tracking it for me? Because I can't see a thing.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. All right, so we got a
Monique
question.
is pinned, so I'm not sure why you can't see her.
I don't know what's going on.
Could
Now
be
I wanna-
something on your Zoom view.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I can't figure it out. I'm old. Let's go. Okay, so we have a question.
Yeah, my question was about I'm blanking on the name of the agency or the acronym, but I think it was the Justice Action Committee. You said that was based in Florida.
Yeah.
Is that an agency that is just a Florida thing, or does every state kind of have something like that, that it's almost like the middleman essentially between some agencies for records?
Great question. The answer is I don't know. I don't know if other states have this exact agency, but do other states have similar little agencies like this? Absolutely. This is where using your sourcing, and I'll tell you, I wasn't that I was just incredibly smart or something and I knew where to go to find this agency. It was that I used my sources to say, yo, I know this story is out there about Angela Corey and her bonuses. She's not going to give it to us. And I went to my sources. How am I going to get that? And they were like, da da da. I had built a relationship. This is where the relationships matter. I had built a relationship, a strong one, with another state's attorney in the state of Florida, well, actually several other. And I leaned in. I said, yo, my guy, I'm working on this story. I heard this about, Angela Corey, and he's her peer. He got the same rank as her. He's just in a different part of Florida. And I said, how can I get that? He's like, oh, I heard about the bonuses. Yeah, I heard she did that. That's crazy. You know where you need to go? You need to go to the Justice Administrative Commission. And that's how I learned it. So all that to say is that in every state, there are going to be these little quirky offices that do things that touch paper, that performing their mission in government. And they're going to be similar to this one, if not exactly like it. And you just have to lean into your sourcing to try to find out where those little bitty agencies are and how you can use the records laws to get information out of them. That was a great question. Who else?
Go ahead,
Sydney,
Alicia.
anybody? Go ahead.
Hi. So for Walking While Black, you said you went to Florida state
Yep.
officials gave you 7 million documents, basically. How did you decide to whittle it down, and how long did it take you to go through all those documents, you and your colleagues?
While you were doing that, I just looked. It was 20 million records. We ended up needing 7 of them for what we were doing, but so it's 20 million records is a spreadsheet. So it's not like actual paper records. It was the spreadsheet, which are a reflection of the paper records. And so those 20 million records came through as a spreadsheet. And if you've ever had to get records that large, they have to do an FTP. They have to kind of do a big file transfer. So it took like 4 days for us to download the entire data set. That it was actually quite simple. It was there in the state of Florida, and for just so you guys know, every state has a centralized traffic citation office. They have a centralized office in every state that handles the state's traffic citations from all over. I believe those offices mainly exist for insurance purposes, quite frankly. Believe that's why those offices exist. But in every state, there is an office. They'll have a different name in every state, but just know that if you're ever interested in big traffic data, go to the state, ask some questions. You'll find the office and you'll be able to get those records pretty easily. And so I made the request to this office. I think in the state of Florida was the comptroller's office, Florida comptroller's office, and made the request. It was about $400, which again is a complete bargain for 20 million records. And got them in about a week or so after they had to establish the FOIA, the FTP transfer and all that. So um, that's how that went. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Partially. How long did it take you to go through the well, you said you needed the 7 million records,
Mm-hmm.
but beyond getting those records, which was the crux of obviously this longer, big, huge piece that did really well, like how long was the reporting process?
We reported Walking While Black kind of in lightning speed for a project of its size. We soup to nuts 6 months, I think. Um, we started reporting in April and started publishing in August, thereabout, and then published nine or so pieces between August and January. So about, some total like 10 months, 9 months of reporting and writing and publishing for this particular piece. And again, that's for ProPublica, that's about as for the size of this project, it's about as fast because we did a lot of satellite stuff with this project. We use all that data to come up with some really nifty, like we did games. We created some games for public to try to participate to kind of learn, do you know where it's legal to cross the street or not? And most people don't know where it's legal and illegal to cross the street. And so it was a well executed and very, very fast project for its size. So 9 months, I think, total. I mean, and then the next year, like the thing I did a year ago was a 2-year project looking at railroads. And it was a total year of reporting and then another year of writing and publishing. So, bigger projects can definitely take a while.
Got it. Thanks, Topher.
No problem. Any other quick questions? Sydney?
I don't see any Zoom hands at the moment.
All right, great. And where are we at on time? What are we doing? Oh, okay. We'll go quick. And then at the end, know the law. It goes without saying, you have to spend a little time digging into the statute language, as stilted and as boring and as, unreadable as that statute language is. It will be the thing that you will utilize to combat any kind of feisty, agencies that want to fight you on your public records. So you have to spend some time looking at those statutes and seeing how they relate. And hopefully in your state, there is a records ombudsman. I know that in most of the states that I pursue records, there is some kind of records ombudsman. They tend to be attached to the attorney general's office. If you've not interacted or you're not on their like kind of relationship list, it's something to do. You could do this tomorrow. You could call and introduce yourself. Say, hey, I just learned that your office kind of exists. I just want to call and introduce myself. I'm a reporter at so and so. I may occasionally come to you with questions and stuff. And they're good people to know. That's who I go to when I have questions about whether or not a denial is legal or not. Just another place. Sometimes they'll tell you that a denial is legal, and if you have other people on your squad, if you've got lawyers with your media organization, they may say, no, we don't think that's true. And you end up, in a fight for the records, but they can be good folks to talk to. Make them prove it with the records. This is just kind of an attitude that I think when the reporters that I really admire tend to have this attitude. I try to be like this as a reporter. I developed a decent reputation of being that kind of reporter, where the difference I saw between reporters that were like nailing amazing stories and then, transitioning on to amazing gigs at the Times and the Post and all that, where they just had this attitude that they didn't take the word of anyone. They made everyone prove it with the records. And when you develop that kind of attitude, you'll be surprised at kind of little sneaky things you'll find agencies trying to do. So I'm sitting around. I'm going to age myself here, but just quickly example of proving it with the records. And I'm watching the public information officer for the state for the local school system. She had just gotten an iPad, and iPads were newish around this time. So she's got an iPad, And I looked at her tablet when she had it. And the first thing she said to me was, Topher, I bought it with my own money. I know you're going to ask, but no, I bought it with my own money. I was like, all right, bet. Cool. That's great. You like it? It's cool. We chatted up a bit. 2 weeks later, I'm in that same spokesperson's office. We chopping it up. IT guy comes in and he's setting up iPad number 2. And I looked at the IT guy, I looked at the spokesperson, and she goes, Toph, I don't know anything about it. I'm looking at it just like you. I don't know what's going on. I have my own personal iPad. Da, 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 da. I was like, okay, bet. Well, how many iPads is my man setting up? She's like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'll go find out. So she walks out the office. She comes back. She's like, they're for the administrative staff. They're for HQ administrative staff. So for Jacksonville schools, that's something like maybe 20 plus iPads, right? I was like, all right, cool. And she said, I know what you're going to do, Topher. Oh, what am I going to do? You're going to submit a records request. Absolutely, I am. And so I walked out of there, got in the car, driving back to the office. Before I got to the office, old girl hit me on the phone, was like, when you get to the office, call me. It's going to be me and the superintendent. We need to explain some things to you about these iPads. So, yeah, they had bought $261,000 in iPads, right? And if you're going to take the word of the person when they tell you, then you're going to miss this story. You got to make them prove it with the records. When I wrote this up, and when I was going to pursue this story, my man knew where I was headed with it. And he said, you know what? Because they had bought iPads for every principal and vice principal in the entire district. And he took all those iPads and moved it to programmatic stuff for the kids. Because he knew that headline wasn't going to fly. And he was a new superintendent. So that's making prove it with the records kind of energy and attitude that you want to kind of develop. All right. Sydney, any questions coming popping up?
No.
All right, cool. Track your records requests. You want to use iFOIA or FOIA machine. Again, you guys can take a screenshot of this or whatever, but this whole little deck will be available. And you want to come up with a way to track your records requests. If you're working a beat, you're at a local spot, all of these agencies know you're very busy. You're pumping out story after story after story, particularly at the local level. And they're banking on the fact that you're just going to forget about this records request that you submitted. So you got to come up with whatever system works for you. I know, Kat, to use Post-it notes to track it, and just whatever your system is, come up with it so that you can come back to them in routine basis based on the state that you're pursuing the records, knowing whatever the retention laws are, whatever the confirmation deadlines are, how quickly they're supposed to tell you that they have the records request, how quickly they're supposed to get you the records. Knowing all those particulars in that state, use some system that helps you track that and then make follow-ups, because those follow-ups are the thing that are going to drive your ability to actually obtain those records. You got to be a pest. You can't be afraid to ask about your records request over and over again until the agency realizes you're not going away and you want those records. And this is just a quick example. I pursuing some records for 6-7 months at a local level. That's ridiculous, just so anyone knows. At the local level, it should not take that long to get any records. And I just kept asking. Ultimately, because the sheriff's office knew I wasn't going away, they just flat out came out and said, we don't got them. We don't got them, Topher. Our bad. We've been deleting them. And it was a bad story for them. But I'm going to tell you again how I think the records I was pursuing was about them keeping an individual in jail for 2 years when they knew the gentleman was innocent after 3 months. And what I was pursuing were the records, the conversation the lead detective was having with his other colleagues about that gentleman still being in jail. And I believe those emails were so damning that they ate this shit burger instead of the one I was trying to serve them. That's how I think. I don't believe this is true. I believe this is fake. They just lied and said we don't have the records, because if they give me the records of my man bitching about why is this dude in jail, it increases their liability, their culpability, and the fact that they're just some snakes keeping a black man in jail. So anyway, That was that. Utilize your sources. You have to. We are tracking. We got 13, 17 minutes left. Any questions popping up, Sydney?
No.
Thank you. Use your sources. I straight up read my records requests to my sources. That's what I mean, my sources at the kind of work I do, where I'm like shining light in the dark places pretty much all the time, is what I do. My sources are the ones that know exactly, and yours as well. They know exactly where the records are. They know exactly what you need to get those records. They know the computer it's on. They know the file name of the record. They know that it's held in this folder. I mean, they know all of that. The more specificity you can use to pursue your records, it vastly increases your opportunity to get them. So in this instance, this turned into a kerfuffle for a sitting congressman out of Florida. At the time, he was the sheriff of Jacksonville, but now he's in Congress. His name's Rutherford. And so I had heard that this dude, Rutherford, voided the tickets for a young on-air traffic reporter for a local for a local news station. It doesn't get any better than this, man. She's the on-air traffic reporter. She's not bad on the eyes and all this, and she got her tickets voided by the sheriff. How did that happen? What happened was she got some tickets from a guy that had been tracking her flying to work. So she's a traffic person, and she's like hauling ass every morning going into work, and she's passing this one cop every time, and he's clocking her and he's stopping her. And then at some point, it started getting creepy for her because I think he stopped her like 3 or 4 times. Some of the violations were a little iffy, like 5 miles over, 6 miles over. And then, like on the fourth time he stopped her, he hit her with a bunch of tickets. And so she promptly called the sheriff, said, "Man, your man was wigging me out, and he gave me all these tickets." And it voided it. The sheriff voided the tickets. It turned into a huge, huge deal for my man. He had to deal with this the whole time he was running for office, and I was able to nail this thing down, utilizing the sources. I was able to say, it was an email. I was able to request the email. I said, I knew the date, I knew the two, I knew who it went to, I knew who it came from, I knew all of that because a source gave it to me. And the minute I dropped this, the sheriff's office called me after I talked to Rutherford, because of course it's not like a surprise or nothing. He knew it was coming. But he calls up and he goes, "Man, Topher, I didn't ask you, like, so how'd you know about that email?" I was like, "Man, what you talking about? You're asking me to tell, man, kick rocks, my guy." And so he was really hurt about this, and he wanted to know what my source was, but that happens sometimes. Anyway, so the same thing happened here. This was our Pulitzer Prize finalist stuff here for public service. One of the pieces in that package was this, and it was the time when Trump's first administration was separating all these kids. That time they were saying, "Oh, it's daycare and it's a summer camp, and oh, the kids are so happy," and all of this. And so we went hard and did some really, really profound records request stuff for this entire package. And in one instance, I was able to get a PIO to give me just enough hint so I can nail this story and find one particular worker who was accused of molesting 8 children. And this, of course, as you might imagine, went pretty gangbusters when it dropped. Um, Emails goes without question. Gotta pursue them. They're so powerful. I cannot stress it. No matter what age you're in, these officials forget that these emails are public record. I want to ask again about questions.
Yeah,
Now we're starting to do it wrong. All right,
let me let me jump in, Topher, because I'm fascinated by this. As I often tell people, I wish sometimes I was back in the newsroom reporting myself when I hear from speakers like you, because you provide me with such insight. But I do see that Kirti in the comments said something about careful with pinpoint for high risk secure rec. Kirti, tell us a little bit what you meant by that.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that was about Google Pinpoint. My newsroom got a security training where they warned us that for Because Pinpoint is where you like would upload a ton of files that you got from your record request, and then it's like a easier way to search through them. And we were told that it's not necessarily secure if you're working with records that you're potentially worried about, like legal issues or like subpoenas and those kinds of questions. That was just the advice that we received, but I don't know if Topher has insight on that.
Yeah, we operate under the same rules at ProPublica. We utilize Pinpoint for anything that is public and open facing. So, for instance, court records, which anyone can go get. We throw those into Pinpoint like no tomorrow. But I'm working on some stuff now that I'm trying to get some people to give up some otherwise not public inspector general reports and audits, and those will not go into Pinpoint. Anything that would blow a source or anything that would that you otherwise don't want someone else to see, don't put it in Pinpoint. If you're cool otherwise with people having some visibility, assuming that there's visibility on it, then you can use Pinpoint for it. Pinpoint is a very powerful tool to use. I used it on my 2-year railroad project and it was great, but it was all court records that anybody could look at and see. There was nothing secret about any of it. I did get some secret material in the course of that reporting, and I did not put that into Pinpoint. You want to find other ways to kind of digitally go through those records if you want to go through those records digitally. So yeah, that's a good point.
Topher, I have a question, and that is based on the atmosphere we're in right now, the sort of sense of uncertainty and fear of recrimination and everything that's going on in the country. Are you seeing a different atmosphere in terms of having to maybe put more effort into getting your FOIAs processed or responded to? Or are you worried about a point coming up soon where people just shut it down completely?
Yeah. So I would say if you didn't get your government any DC oriented records before January, good luck. Yeah, I don't know what that's going to look like. And I'm saying that knowing that Democratic administrations are absolutely, this is to burst some bubbles. Democratic administrations are no friends to, reporters really pursuing records. They just aren't, just based on the track record. We've kind of looked at the data. I thought there's an outfit out there that tracks this stuff and they put out a report every year. They're no like great friend to us. They are probably not as guarded as Republican administrations, but it is. I just want to blow the narrative that though they're great and they're perfect for us. No, they're not. Obama actually had a horrible, horrible track record for giving up records during his tenure. But yes, the new administration is a different animal, and I don't know what you're going to get at the federal level for that. That being said, I have not run into big issues at the state level, Republican led or Democratic led. It's just, I think at the state level, what you're going to find, state and local level, are people really just trying to do their jobs, right? And I do think what you're speaking to is a little bit of how some officials are emboldened to be jerks in a way because of what they see coming out of DC, the energy they see coming out of DC. But by and large, when it comes to trying to get traffic data or get, police reports, me and my colleagues, my peers that are doing this work, so far we've seen people kind of doing business as usual out in these streets, particularly at the local level, which is where I get the bulk of my records. All the great stories I've done, very few of them are like even the stuff that we did about child separation. That's a federal issue, but we went fool with them to get the records. We went to the states, we went to the cities and the communities to get the records because that's where we knew we could get them.
I think we have time for 3 more questions. So we'll start with Gabby, then Tamia, and then Lionel.
Hi, Topher. I'm Gabriela Nunez with WXIA Channel 11 in Atlanta, Georgia. So I have a more specific question. I'm a special projects producer, and one of the series that I do is called More Than a Number, where we try to transform crime reporting and really humanize those lives that have been lost, whether it's through a traffic crash, or in a lot of times homicides or murders. So I do cover a lot of cold cases, but where I struggle is that a lot of law enforcement agencies hide behind this is an open and active investigation when I just try to get something as simple as a police report or 911 calls. And a lot of the times we let people write in to say my loved one didn't get any media attention, or hey, we've been waiting on this. Law enforcement doesn't call it a cold case, but it's been 20 years. And then it's a small agency, but because it was a homicide in a small like sheriff's office in rural Georgia, didn't have the manpower at the time, that case is under the GBI. So I struggle to be creative with records to just get a simple incident report. I can get death records, marriage records, where they've been buried, but what is your advice to make sure I get details of the case or try to know as much as law enforcement know?
Yeah, on the incident reports, are the families able to obtain those?
No, a lot of the times it's actually pretty tragic at how many family members have nothing from law enforcement themselves.
But what I'm asking is, have you worked with a family to make their own requests of those incident reports?
Yes, and the family will get it's an open and active investigation. And even though if we try to use like kinship as a reason, it has not worked out, especially with the GBI.
Does Georgia have a records ombudsman?
I'm not sure. I actually made note of that to look into that because I don't know like if that's something to bring up as a fight with our largest law enforcement agency in the state.
And the other thing that what I kind of do here is I also lean in on the criminal, not defense, but sometimes defense. I make calls to my lawyer homies in instances like this and say, hey, man, I know you had that one case a couple months ago. Were you able to get the incident report out of that case? Like anyone who's taken like a high profile cops killed person case in Georgia, like where we're talking to Ahmaud Arbery or any of those folks, I'd be asking them, what did y'all do to get the incident report? I need some assistance, some advice. I would lean into those folks to kind of get some insights on how to do that. It's a great question. And I don't have a magic thought on how to bust open the active investigation thing. It is the bane, I think, of every reporter's existence that does this kind of work. So it's a great question. But when I have had any success, it's because I took the advice of some lawyers that I knew, or the ombudsman was able to point to like some arcane case that dealt with this, that was in the zeitgeist, and say, hey, yo, cite this in your pushback. And I was able to do some of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi, Topher. My name is Tamia Folks. I'm a public investigator for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I was wondering how often, if you are in a situation where you've been maybe waiting months or like pushing close to like a year for records, when you would maybe like write about that situation, like if there's ever scenarios in which you write about how long it takes an agency to respond to those types of requests in terms of seeking accountability, or do you think that it's better to maybe wait and then pester them via email? I just feel like in my newsroom, we've run into that quite a bit, and we do try to maybe seek accountability in those situations as well.
At the local level, I like those kind of stories. I don't know how much they push the needle with the agencies to ultimately create the kind of public interest in the thing that yields the records being released. I have seen it happen a few times where writing about the records unlodged the records. More often than not, it's just a story about you're not getting your records. And what editors have told me over and over again is that, and this is at the local level, not at the ProPublica level, but at the local level, they go, oh, nobody wants to read that you can't get your records, Topher. Nobody wants to read that. It's like, yeah, but this is about the public good. And I make all the arguments, and editors like, when their story is big enough, my newspapers have been down for it, and we do it, and that combined with some editorial pressure. Now, this again is dated about 7 years. I think editorial pressure, even as a concept, is vastly different in a post-Trump world, because people have now, shame is not as powerful as it once was, unfortunately. And so but all this to say, it's been far and in between that we write about a record struggle. Only when the story is big enough that it's captivated a bulk of the community, and the lack of records around it is a thing. Has a newspaper really been down for that? And they've also used their editorial staff to kind of buttress and support that. That's been my experience. And so at ProPublica, we don't write about our pursuit of records. We just don't.
Thank you.
And final question to Lionel.
Yeah, thanks, Topher, for doing this. So I cover state government for Oklahoma. I'm based in Oklahoma City, public radio station, KOSU. I'm working on a story right now about basically the state of immigration enforcement in Oklahoma. And without getting into the weeds, there's kind of these two tiers of it, right? Where the state has this law on permissible occupation, that is a state crime, for being in the country without permission. And then we have 287G agreements and kind of jail enforcement models and task force models that is more streamlined through the feds. Well, I know that regardless of as to what the reason is that someone gets arrested for immigration purposes, whether it's a state or federal level, that they get booked into a county jail and then they get transferred to a federal detainment center somewhere nearby, either in Oklahoma or in Texas usually. And along the process, people are flagged with an ICE hold. And I'm in this weird situation where I've sent a records request for the number of people that have been flagged with ICE holds that have been arrested for state crimes and then transferred to federal custody at these county level sheriff's offices and jail trusts. And some of them are like, we don't keep that record. Once we send them to the feds, they have all the records for that. And some of them are like, oh, it's going to take us a while to get all that. And so now I'm getting two different responses from like the same level of entity for the same records, for the same requests. And I'm not sure what to do with that situation and kind of who to press, I guess, to be truthful is really all I can come up with.
Yeah.
So I just wondered what you thought.
This goes to the question that Rachel asked a little bit. Rachel, this is where you will see this if it's a Republican-led state, right? I think I was just doing some reporting in Oklahoma, right? Where you have real allegiances to kind of Trump's spear, you may encounter this kind of vibe, right? And every state's a little different. Even red states that are red states might not behave like this, but if they are like super Trump supporter state, then you might find this a little bit. I was going to ask, are you asking for the carve out with those two filters in mind? You've already said they need to be ICE, they need to be this. Have you asked for it more generally?
Like, and that's kind of a concern that I had, is that maybe I went too specific, and that they were, because one of the responses that I got from Tulsa was that they don't have to create new records to fulfill my request.
Correct.
Meanwhile, I'm looking at the jail roster with all the information that I want. I just can't filter it.
Yeah.
So if they just gave me the roster with just the ICE holds, it would be good.
I wonder if they could just send you the entire roster
and filter it myself. Okay.
And so two things that I would do. One, have you talked to or gotten any insight on what their I think it's called a master data. It's basically it's a document that would tell you all fields that they keep. So
no. I know what you're talking about, and I have not thought about asking them. Okay.
Get that. So you can see all the fields they have already in the data set. And then know the fields and just say, man, give me the whole shit and shaboodle. Give it all to me with these 5 fields. They don't have to do no filtering. They don't got to do no carve out. They don't got to do no special design for you. They're just giving you the shit. And then you do your own stuff. And that's what I would do. You want to find, there's a field that's going to address this ICE hold thing. Whatever field that is, you want that field in it, but tell them don't touch it. Just give me the whole thing, man. And so you're going to get a lot of cats that aren't who you're interested in, but then you should be able to get and do your own pivots and stuff to determine, who you're looking for.
And so just to be clear, there should be a document that they hold for themselves, for their own reference.
Absolutely.
It's like, this is what this means. And that's what we're asking.
And the other thing I would be doing, if you got any formers that were in the system, a year ago, 2 years ago, that would know some of this. Once you get into the back channel with the data cats, they always in a dungeon somewhere at these agencies. They looking for someone to give them a piece of bread and some water. Like, and you just need to become friendly with some of these cats, and they'll tell you exactly the data they have. And I take cats out for coffee and say, man, talk me through your data system, so I know what it looks like. Sometimes they're gonna make games, play games, and say, oh, it was built for us, and it's archaic, and we don't really know how to work it that well. Oh, cool. Give me the make and model. I'll help you out.
Okay. Yeah, we get a lot more of like the big-headed leadership type thing where folks aren't sure if they're like they feel weird about just releasing whatever data set it is, and so they're like, let me just ask leadership, and then leadership's like, oh no, we don't have this, we don't keep this, we don't, go fuck off kind of
Yeah,
thing.
don't skip
So
all that by trying to
okay,
get the information on the back end and coming back with a really well-informed records request that doesn't allow them to play some of these games. But I think you asked for the level of specificity in your ask allowed them to say, nah, dog, we good.
yeah, okay,
So I think if you back out a
interesting.
bit and get a bigger bucket that you then go in and find what you want, maybe you could have some success.
Thank
This
you.
has been an incredibly powerful discussion. You put us all on game, as they say, as the young people say today. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us today. And I'm sure the journalists will want to reach out to you in
Yeah,
the
please do. I mean, I'm saying it. I know cats say this kind of stuff all the time. Like, yo, holler back at me and all that. I'm dropping my email right here. Hit me up if you got questions or you want to talk offline about, something you're dealing with, records wise or whatever. Holler at me.
Topher Sanders of ProPublica. Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch.
All
Take
right.
care.
Take care.
Thank you, Topher.
Bye-bye.